Hey folks, earlier this year, the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which is where I live, experienced extreme and sustained flooding, which caused severe damage to infrastructure and homes across the province. Now, ENCA has released a report to analyze exactly what has been done to rectify the damage caused by this event. Let's get started and see how it's been going.
Welcome back. KwaZulu-Natal's crippling water and sanitation challenges continue, with some municipalities struggling to provide clean, potable water to residents.
This is, of course, due to declining water levels as well as the devastating impact of the April floods, which destroyed infrastructure. Some beaches have also had to close due to sewage leaks. Well, for more on the province's water problems, we're joined now by spokesperson for the Water and Sanitation Department, Sputnik Ratau. A very good morning to you, Mr. Ratau, and thank you so much for your time. Now, I mean, where does the department even start to tackle the KZN's issues? Because, you know, there's now the matter of the beaches, there's the declining water levels, there's infrastructure destruction, of course, because of the April floods. Where do you even start to solve the problem?
Good morning, Morena. I think the idea is not even to start, but to continue with the work that we do ordinarily, to working together with the municipalities. I think one of the things that came out of the impact of the floods was that, you know, the issue is not to repair just for now, but it is to build for the long term. That is what Minister Mkhunu was very keen to have happen. And therefore, this has created an opportunity that even as we go on with our support to municipalities through the grants that we have, the regional bulk infrastructure grant and the water support infrastructure grant, obviously bringing in as well the municipal infrastructure grant from the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. That money needs to really be married to a particular outcome, and that is that work must be in place, but projects that are already underway must be completed and completed urgently, because that can be able to assist us to bring this required resource to the people of KZN.
Yeah. Ndaterata, was also interesting to note that indeed the Minister, Senzo Mkhunu, while addressing actually different municipalities in the hope of finding solutions, sustainable solutions to what is happening in KZN, he made mention about how municipal representatives need to stop feeling quite proud when they provide temporary solutions for the issues of water availability, saying that it's no good to offer water tanks and to be proud of the fact that you're giving water tanks. Let's talk a little bit about municipalities here. Is there almost a lax attitude, or perhaps somewhere a slow progression of municipalities to be able to go down, bog down, and actually find sustainable solutions to water issues? It seems as though the minister was not impressed with that.
I can confirm that this is how local politicians behave. For example, the eThekwini municipality, which is the one that governs the city of Durban and the surrounding areas in which I live, they are often posting on their social media pages images of them repairing potholes, and they claim these pothole repairs as as if to say, look at what we're doing, we're so proud that we've filled these potholes. It's ridiculous, because filling potholes is just part and parcel of running a municipality and keeping the roads serviceable. But they expect praise for it. So that's not uncommon with regard to how they provide services. In this case, the provision of water tanks, so that people can kind of scrounge a living and struggle to get by because they don't have running water.
You know, in the engagements that we have had with municipalities across the country, the minister has been very, very unimpressed with those temporary measures, and especially because they are not sustainable. In the first place, tankering is very expensive. So even if you use it, it's got to be for a specific period and only because there is a particular need at the time. But it cannot be regarded as a long-term solution, because in the first instance, just the cost of that, is huge. But secondly, it gives a false sense of comfort to say, anyway, we are, providing tankers. But what has also come up is that those tankers are not reliable in the manner in which they deliver. And that is why you still find communities that say, we've only seen a water tanker here once in the last 4 months or in the last 3 weeks and so on. So those kind of things, because the management even of those is not something that we can really be proud of. And therefore, the idea is to get the tankers out of the way, provide reliable solution, put in the infrastructure that is required, but more importantly, operate and maintain that infrastructure on an ongoing basis in a manner that will ensure optimal operation.
Could it be said that that was perhaps one of the major problems for the reason why infrastructure was destroyed in the manner it was, is that maintenance wasn't top of mind, maintenance wasn't, provided as often and as well as it probably should have been?
It's difficult to say that in an event like the floods that we had and the type of floods that were experienced, because if you can see, even the infrastructure of Umgeni water supply, which is top of the range, which was deeply underground, but it was actually upended, and it ended up in pieces all over the place. So the impact of a natural event like a flood would be very difficult for you to say it is because of that. But in the everyday operations, we are aware that the lack of operations and maintenance of normal reticulation infrastructure leaves a really big chunk of desire to be taken care of. We are not doing that great as municipalities, and therefore the emphasis has got to be in there.
Yeah, the water.
I just want to say I'm really surprised by how frank and honest he's being about how they've failed. Usually, South African politicians will do anything they can to shift the blame away from themselves and put it on someone else. So it's quite refreshing to see a politician actually be honest about the problems in the province.
Water Services Management at the Department of Water and Sanitation was also mentioning about how vandalism and theft happens when these water treatment works are not completed, when issues of water infrastructure is not completed as well. It has to be, is it a capacity issue as well, in your opinion, Sputnik? Because you tried to establish why is it that some of this infrastructure has been going on for a long time. Yes, fine, we cannot negate what happened when it comes to the floods, but somehow we're missing the mark in the way in which we treat our infrastructure. The non-completion of it obviously makes it more vulnerable and more susceptible to theft and vandalism. Do these municipalities have capacity and perhaps even skills required to complete some of these ongoing projects?
The issue of skills, the issue of project management and monitoring is something that we see as very, very crucial, because part of what leads to these projects not being completed within budget, within time, includes the issue of project monitoring and management. And that is why the issue of skilling, just the fact that within municipalities we don't have the necessary skills, whether it's engineering skills, whether it's the issues of skills within the CFO offices and so on, because also just the ability to spend has got an impact on what kind of delivery can be made. So those kinds of emphasis on are very critical. But I think it brings us to a point where, as a department, as ministry, there was a realization that we would need input, particularly from your private sector. The review of water boards speaks to some of these issues, because part of what we are looking at is that the capacity that also resides within water boards should be able to be deployed in less capacitated municipalities for certain periods, to be able to bring the technical capacity of that municipality that would have been identified up to speed. But obviously that must be married to the municipality taking it upon itself to attract the necessary skills and to actually retain those skills once they are in the system.
One of the main reasons for the lack of skilled government workers is because of national government's policy of racially preferential employment. The reason why they can't find people who are qualified to do these jobs is that ideologically, government is focused on meeting racial quotas, and in the case of KZN and many other provinces, when government seeks to hire, they first off want to put black people in these positions. Now, there is nothing wrong, and obviously so, with putting black people into positions of importance or power, provided that they have the capacity to actually fulfill the functions as needed. What we are seeing, and what we have seen for decades now in South Africa, is that when race is prioritized over qualification and skill, you have a non-functional country.
Ndadratau, you would obviously hope as a department that residents of KZN are, understanding and patient with the department as you look to tackle the matter of skills, so as to make sure that the services that are provided with the idea of long term. But the destitute have only so much patience and understanding. So in terms of timelines, while you are dealing with all of these matters, in terms of timelines, what do you then say to the people of KZN regarding the issues of water and sanitation?
Every time we engage with communities, one of the issues is that very one of patience. And it is unfair, really, in essence, to expect one to be as patient as what? A piece of string, how long is it? Because the issue of delivery of basic services, and here we are talking about basic services, is something that needs to have happened like yesterday. And that is where we say, yes, patience, but we must marry that patience to actual deliverables, or rather delivery. And that is why part of what needs to happen is that even as we deliver, even as we push towards reduced timelines, we must also keep communities informed, because I think from our experience, it is that if communities are informed, we are able to go to them and say, we have been able to deliver this much in this time. This pipeline is so many kilometers. We can only do so much in this time, but we have actually pushed an extra 2 kilometers and so therefore, what are the implications? Because once people know what the implications are for themselves, they can internalize that, and they can come back to you and say, but we still are feeling a little sore in this point and that point, and then we can be able to look at that together. But unless we really put our shoulders to the wheel and make sure that we follow the money, we make sure that the appointment is of credible service providers that have got the capacity as well, and that we follow the project management and implementation, then we can be able to go somewhere.
Well, I'll say this for the representative that they've just spoken to here. He is very well spoken, and from a public relations point of view, he's pretty impressive with the way he carried himself and the way he interacted with the news anchors there. Whether or not that will actually result in concrete consequences with regard to the repair and maintenance of KwaZulu-Natal's water infrastructure remains to be seen. There are still several communities here in the province that have been without water for months since the flooding. And when you're without access to running water, it really makes life difficult, because I think particularly in the West, this is not something that people think about or have to worry about on a daily basis. But without running water, it really limits your ability to lead a good life. And especially when this happens over a sustained period of months, that really weighs on your life and makes everything more difficult. So I can only say that I hope this guy wasn't just blowing smoke and that something of real consequence happens after this interview. Anyway, that's all for today, and for now, farewell.